And now with intention, if they then do the necessary thing, and definitely we are going to stand by it, and we are going to make sure say we get a parliamentary bill we go take us certain activity.
The Radio Democracy, they can look inside concern them where people get for SICA, the Parliamentary Welfare Act 2022 document, where they are public now, and plenty people don't raise concern. But the thing them where they inside this document, so today, we can discuss waiting and waiting. So far, we don't see. Firstly, I want to welcome now the studio the representative from Parliament, we na Sheku Lamin Ture, Director, Parliamentary and Public Relations Department. Good morning and welcome to the program. All right, and also we're at the studio this morning, Thomas Dixon, we're a journalist and social commentator. They represent people we get concerns them for SICA, this particular act where we see we now the Parliamentary Welfare Act 2022 documents where plenty people don't raise concern. But good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, thank you very much.
Well, as you tell us, then people are in the studio this morning for we can talk about these documents. Although we see yesterday the Office of the Clerk being done put position as of Parliament say then not get nothing for do with this particular document. But we also know say now members of Parliament them people allege say don't put this document together where they don't gazette and be they wish say then go pass on a Parliament with them reach. So that then go look at some conditions of service. But before we can talk to the studio guests, them just quickly, the documents we did before we this morning at the studio as of the memorandum of objects for the reasons then we make this act come into existence. I will just quickly go through and because the act gets 4 parts them. They say the purpose of this act is to prescribe the salaries and other conditions of service for speakership, leadership, clerkship, and members of Parliament in line with the current economic trends and best practice within the Mano River Union to enhance the effective and diligent service delivery by members of Parliament for the good of this country. So then divide the act into 4 parts. The first part they talk about say they make provision for the interpretation and definition of words used throughout the act. The second part of this act say they deal with the salaries and conditions of service for speakership, leadership, clerkship, and members of Parliament. The third part of the Act say they deal with allowances and other benefits of leadership and members of Parliament. And the final one, when at the fourth part, it outlines miscellaneous provisions enabling the Speaker to make regulations to give effect to this Act and provide room for amendment as and when necessary. Well then, say they make this Act as per the document we will see on the 20th day of May 2022, and they ascribe Honorable Dr. Abbas Chernobundu, Speaker of Parliament. Well, now the documents are one can look at this morning at the studio, but I will start with Thomas Dixon, where a journalist and social commentator. Yourself don't you follow this issue from where these particular documents come back to the public. This is the second term where people don't they say members of Parliament and they make attempts for increase waiting at the benefits and salaries them where then they get within the Parliament. And the second time they see this kind of documents they come. But let me just start for no first. If you've been shocked for Siam again after if it don't come up back some time ago, but it died because people been raised concern and the president so been agree for let the members of Parliament here go ahead with this decision. You shocked for see these documents come up again?
I'm not going to say a shock for Siam, but a surprise at this point in time. We see short a bill from members of Parliament for increase in salary astronomically and for also give them some allowances we not justifiable. We then say not be able to justify. And while Sierra Leoneans, people working for government, teachers, then they get peasant. Then they get small salary. We not reach. Some of them in salary not reach up to $100 a month, and we get bag of rice is around 400,000 loans. So if they get something like 800,000, you spend 400,000 for buy a bag of rice. You get picking for take care of. You get rent for pay. At the end of the day, you look at all of these things. It's not measuring up. Then we see with parliamentarians, we then for champion the cause of the people, where then have representative in the parliament, then they make absurd law for increase then salary and allowances. I think for me, a very sad, and I think for majority of Sierra Leoneans, a very, very sad that at this point in time where government they negotiate with teachers for ensure say they not strike, at this point in time when so many sectors, so many public workers are suffering the economic crunch in our country, these our members of parliament decide for take the other route.
This not the first term, as my colleague rightly mentioned. Now the second term this, and the first now the wardrobe allowance we been come up and we see it go down again. And this one we talk about, we see parliaments don't pull a release, say then they disassociate themselves from
Well, for me that release is very controversial. If you read the release from the clerk of parliament, they tell you say the state say them they're aware of a private member motion. Of a private member motion, bill we don't go through. They say they are aware in the first paragraph of the statement. And at the latter part of the statement, he said Parliament distributes. In the middle of the press release, he justify why members of Parliament get rights for do private member motion and blah 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 and blah. So for me, very controversial. In one hand, they tell we say they're not aware. In another hand, and I even listened to an interview in the BBC where he said a private member motion.
So
waiting absurd more. Now the fact that the speaker in him there at the end of the bill, and from the clerk of parliament, he said the speaker says they're not aware.
We can look at that in response the Thomas Dixon. We can, because we get a representative of parliament, I go clear some of the issues, then we don't bring doubts after that respond the way parliament be make yesterday. But we go back into the thing that have been highlighted earlier as to waiting make them say them put this bill together. Maybe before the program they will go able to identify how that do the bill. But let me just look at part 3 when I catch so many people in eyes, where they talk about allowances and other benefits for members of parliament. The first part that they say a member of parliament shall be entitled to medical equivalent of $15,000 per annum when like every year. But they also state say provided that the said amount shall be utilized through medical services to be rendered by an approved medical insurance scheme for the current year. If you look at that, in continue again for the other services and conditions of service and allowances where the members of parliament want for increase to them say. But like I've been read earlier, they state among the reason and say the purpose of now for letting it go able for meet the current economic trend compared to the sub-region. As a social commentator, that kind of information the way you see. Members of parliament say they want for letting allowances and waiting in the get as salaries and other condition meet the sub-region, then take into consideration as within the states the economic trend we currently the country they go through. Is it realistic?
It is true that the country they go through some serious economic trend. People are suffering with hunger. In fact, according to Afrobarometer report in May of this year, between 2019 and 2022, about 72% of Sierra Leoneans go through a lot of hunger. When we say Salon, we only beat about 5 countries in Africa. So it really the show say the economic trend in our country is very, very huge. We also see inflation the increase. Government may promise they reduce it to a digit, but now inflation still a double digit. So for me, I think Parliament for serve the cause of the people. Me, they think say them for don't come up with we are in government they delay for come up with the wage salary and wages compensation bill. Me, they think say them for a private member motion for don't they for talk about equitable wages across the board. But if members of parliament then decide for go make this law and begin for tell we say then forgive members of parliament they annually 170 million euros, which is about $15,000 with a medical allowance. I think for me it's very, very sad. You ask yourself, what members of parliament and they do it different? You go ask yourself that what actually then they do way different. Some of them not even, according to IGR reports, some of them not even go to parliament. Some of them not even participate in debate. it? How many of them they go back to them constituencies? You look at all of these things. First of all, I believe say motivation for becoming a member of parliament, you're not supposed to be money. It's supposed to be a public service function for serve the public. But in our country, it's sad that the greatest motivation to politics and power is for let people enrich themselves. In other parts of the world, the greatest motivation for get power, for get political office, and for serve the public. And by coming up with this bill, whether it's private member or public, I think say nobody in a parliament, the leadership in a parliament no go tell me say they not don't get a view of this particular bill. And what's annoying in the bill is what I see as recess allowance. Recess allowance. We members of parliament they on recess. Well, no, they go to parliament.
Like we don't leave.
We don't leave. We forgive their allowance.
So Dixon, somebody go tell you say
members of parliament they go recess about 2 or 3 times in the year. So anytime they go recess, we forgive their allowance. Remember the last one they come up with wardrobe allowance. See anytime they go to parliament, we forgive them all. And one thing always the mistake is we they compare Sierra Leone and other countries. Them some of the countries that they compare Sierra Leone to, they're not that far ahead of you in terms of the economy, in terms of political administration and good governance. And most times it's frustrating for like, when it comes to good, we know they compare Sierra Leone to those countries. But when it comes to things and for like, we suit with personal interest, we they begin for compare Sierra Leone. In West Africa, now we get the least paid members of parliament. But you know they tell we the GDP per capita of those countries. You know they tell we almost the least public servants now those countries they make. Key terms,
Thomas Dixon, they tell you say they want match the current economic trend and also want match the Mano River Union pacing trend in terms of their colleague MPs. You not think say that point valid?
For instance, you know go compare the economy of Sierra Leone to Ivory Coast in the Mano River Union. No, you can't. So there are many things that we get for look at before you begin for make comparison. Just because we want for increase. Why not the members of parliament champion say we teachers them? They are the least paid in the Mano River Union. Let us come up with a bill where they increase their salaries. Teachers, lecturers, medical workers. Let us come up with a bill where they increase their salaries. As I say, members of parliament and in a parliament for serve the public. And not for themselves in a parliament. Yes, it's good that they should have some good salary at the end of the day. But this kind of way they do so is very, very, very ridiculous at this point in time with Sierra Leone. They face a very, very tough economic situation.
All right, Thomas Dixon, I name journalist and social commentator. There this morning we talk about a document where the public now we get for do with waiting and call the Parliamentary Welfare Act 2022. People on the race concerned, but it's in the way they inside it for sicker conditions of service to members of parliament wants for make it be improved. The
program is still listening to our Good Morning Salon, where they come to you from the Society for Radio Democracy 98.1 FM. We will bring you this edition of the program Good Morning Salon. Musa Kamara na my name.
And Mabel Kaba.
We come to we other studio guest, Sheku Lamin Toure from the Parliament's Communications Unit. He therefore talk about the Parliamentary Welfare Act 2022. The document they are public now. Though Parliament don't disassociate themselves from this, according to the clerk in release we pulled yesterday. But first of all, as somebody we represent Parliament in terms of communication, when Parliament receive this news, I want to receive them first of all.
Thank you very much, Musa. We see this thing we get for do with the bill, not the court of social media. So the Parliament take up with the leadership, discuss with the leader of government business and the clerk of Parliament, and they pretty much clear that they're not aware and that formally they before Parliament, and our document they go formally before Parliament. It get for be gazetted because Section 108 of the Constitution make them very clear in the legislative process that you get for gazette waiting at gazetting. Gazetting is just about giving public information that this is what we intend doing. So, and if we publish twice, enough for lapse not more than 8 days or 9 days from the first publication. Then if we be formally presented to the office of the Clerk of Parliament, the clerk in turn go take with the leader of government business, when then they chair the business committee in Parliament, then go discuss them, then go put on an order paper, then take the well of Parliament for consideration. So as far as the Parliament of the Republic of Sierra Leone is concerned, this document is not formally presented and before Parliament. So Parliament totally unaware. But however, and every Sierra Leonean, if you get interested in the health sector, in the mining sector, you can go through a member of Parliament in lobby for take a private member bill in Parliament. We don't get 3 of such. We get the HIV/AIDS. Of course, we get 2. We go through the legislative process, but the president, former president, Anet Baiko, might not be signed into law, and that get to do with the Safe Abortion Act of 2015, when a member of Parliament be pilot, but due to interventions from interreligious councils and other, bodies, the former president be sent back to Parliament, asking for wider consultations, and so that bill they be held in abeyance.
So this one we look at now.
No,
Somebody
just to give an example.
Asking MP for do am.
Well, I just to give an example as to how private member bill they can Parliament.
So yeah, you talk about the authors of then bill and you rightly clearly point out say now people can lobby the MPs.
I say
in this situation,
for pass a private member bill, it can be interest of citizens coming to Parliament, lobby a member of Parliament.
So for Parliament, what will find out as the person, or would the person will not find out?
The clerk don't make them very clear. It's not about naming the person we author, okay? It's about welfare. Everybody wants a good welfare. Even you waiting at 98.1 years, so you want a good conditions of service. So as a matter of conditions of service, me not saying anything way bad. Everybody wants a good conditions, except otherwise. So if you look at we parliamentarians then, particularly for this 5th parliament, of the Second Republic, we don't get about 6 deaths whenever happen in the life of a particular parliament.
As a result of what?
And most of them deaths then we get critically ill parliamentarians where we go through difficulties. Because as it is, the House not get anything like a medical insurance, for members of Parliament. So with members of Parliament, they operate in an especially difficult circumstance. No office space, no better conditions of service, given a baseline, and looking at, the West Africa sub-region, particularly, Ghana, the Gambia, Liberia. They find out, say, with members of Parliament, they're down. I be the observer members of Parliament and then counterpart them. Recently we get the CPA, Africa Region Conference, we commence on the 3rd, then it'll end today on the 9th of June. When you see, for example, the MPs from Kenya, you look at we members of Parliament, you see a greater, disparity. So members of Parliament challenge, but always anything we get for do with Parliament, not to salon no more. Parliament not get right in the court of, public opinion. Okay? Even in England, you go realize say they did a survey, the House of Commons. They asked the people, how relevant is Parliament? 70% of respondents say Parliament not relevant.
So you don't make mention, Sheku, of the fact, say, members of Parliament, and you say you don't observe, and say then they go through conditions then way like justifiable for letting ask for an increase on the conditions of service and also allowances and way we they see inside this way, like they confirm say una no say a member of Parliament put these documents together.
No, as long as you get for do with a private member's bill.
So una confirm say na somebody in
Parliament. Either na a private citizen influencer or either na the members of Parliament themselves, na then they present.
So now that's how they ask. Una don't confirm now say this na private member motion bill and as somebody when a member of Parliament or members of Parliament put them together.
Yeah, but now they push them, but you not day before Parliament,
not day before Parliament, but now don't confirm saying na them put them together.
Well, na illegal you see. Would they do further consultations? Would they do, further inquiry? But I'm not going to shy away from the fact that, we members of parliament need a better conditions.
Now then put them together.
We'll go able for effectively hold them.
Now then put them together. Now the question what they ask.
Well, as at now, I'm not go ascertain, but again, I go tell you clearly say, as long as the document or leak, and as long as the private member bill, and it get for go through processing, I don't talk about gazetting, even in the clerking.
Private member bill means say, waiting, private member bill.
Yeah, private member bill means say, not a government motion, not a government bill. A government bill,
but
a minister,
from MP.
A minister and the pilot a government bill in parliament. Yeah.
The reason why they ask, now this second paragraph, now this clerk in statement yesterday, I want to clarify. And I make they ask say, when a private member
what is
bill,
that paragraph saying?
The paragraph they say, I wish to clarify that the said document, being a private member bill, has not been presented to Parliament for consideration. As such, neither the office of the Speaker nor clerk is aware of its existence. So being that a private member bill, is it confirmed that a member of Parliament in Andy Panam?
No, of course, it could be a member of parliament. It could be a citizen.
But it don't clarify now. Clarify means say I want to know say.
No, listen.
Now private member na the parliament
say,
put
the
them
clerk
together.
don't make them clear before it
say it clarify.
Yes, it don't make them clear. Say that document is not formally there before parliament.
No, but it say na a private member.
It's a private member.
So na member of parliament in Andy Panam.
Of course, if a member of parliament feels say then conditions of service not appropriate, based on a baseline. Based on a baseline survey where they don't do, and then fee say therefore put such a document for improved and conditions. And
so the reason why they ask for clarify, if when I don't clarify, I'm not the press release say now a private member bill. Why in that same press release in last statement they say Parliament they disassociate itself from them?
No,
when not on a member.
No, it not day formally before Parliament. The debate you get to understand the legislative process. From the outset, I don't make it clear.
Member.
I don't make it clear.
Now on a member,
a private member's bill, now a member of parliament, the presenter. I don't tell you say private member bill. Every Sierra get right for influence a private member bill. Just that you're not going for pilot and a parliament. But if you don't put them together, or you don't lobby a member of parliament, and I don't work on them together. Now the member of parliament they take responsibility for presenting in the world of parliament.
But the situation
just like the issue around safe abortion. Now private citizens come together, development partners.
Yes, we know say inaugurate na parliament. They don't gazette them. Wait about for you establish now whether or not una they confirm say member of parliament they hand up on the documents. And that's how they want you clarify. No, because una clarify na the press release, but at the end una disassociate.
As at now, I not go give you that what they expect. I not go give you that answer. But what I go tell you, in the offing is that a private member bill, it come up from citizens or a member of parliament, and a member of parliament the pilot.
Okay, two things at play. It's clear now say na member of parliament then push or member of parliament push this act or the proposal. And secondly, they say parliaments need the welfare, and the welfare needs to be upgraded compared to other countries, even at the Mano River Union Basin. If that's the case, why parliament did disassociate itself from this?
Because it not formally be presented to parliament. Let me tell you about parliament. And parliament is structured. Anything way official in parliament, it get for be communicated to the office of the clerk, and that of the speaker, and the clerk get for inform the business committee we headed by the leader of government business. Then go discuss and put on another paper until it just like the Auditor General's report. The Auditor General go down doing reports everything. Whatever leaks you get is up to you. But until then tabular na parliament, it not become a public document.
Not being aware of no mean say una go disassociate una self from and say we know they near this document in case the MP we pioneer and present in a parliament. We have to reject them.
But I don't tell you about the process. It's about lobbying. If the MP take in documents, say for example a member of parliament, because obviously a member of parliament get for pilot that a private member bill in a parliament, it's not a government bill. But if you're able for lobby and take into parliament, submit after publication and 2 issues of the Gazette, pursuant to section 108 of the Constitution, done is serve the clerk of parliament. The clerk of parliament, share with the leader of government business, then discuss and put on another paper, done them present on a parliament. It is formally before Parliament,
Now,
and Parliament go take action on it.
As Director of Communication, Parliament, all waiting day inside that proposed bill, the way Parliament don't disassociate themselves from now, you think say it necessary now for ask for them, request them, or for ask for them kind of facility them now as member of Parliament them?
Well, in my considered opinion, in my honest opinion, and until we provide for we members of Parliament adequately, we're not going able for hold them effectively to account based on our expectations.
So you
know, with regards to legislation, oversight, and representation.
At this time, you think say member of Parliament then, because when you talk about member of Parliament, you talk about medical facility and medical opportunity.
I don't tell you so. Get 6 deaths in this current Parliament will not ever happen, and some of them MPs then they, and I go tell you now confidently that whilst then they await medical processing, some then die in the process. Some they even await in salary, it die in the process. We get a current member of Parliament where they don't amputating too, it gets a serious medical condition.
If somebody where they listen to you now can present this the own sector or how people suffer in the sector, like the teachers, for example, even some medical doctors not get their medical facility there. If then can present then you lost in terms of due to medical condition, due to lack of facilities, them make somebody go argue, say why Parliament no go argue for better condition of all Salone people, where then self na citizens of Salone, instead of asking for separate opportunity.
Yeah, which is a very simple the question where you ask. Yeah, now we take for example the management of 98.1, the better salary where the management of 98.1 gets. Okay, don't honor the staff then where they support the management. When I come up with a proposal, as long as they get a better conditions, when I will get the way through. So for members of Parliament get a better conditions, and they tell you say go trickle down to other sectors. Because as long as they're happy, but if you want try for improve other sectors, then the members of Parliament are not happy. When are they get for enact into law so that it will take effect? How do you expect it? So pay let you papa get boko money. So whatever request you meet them for, it will support you.
All right, Sheku Laminture, Director, Parliamentary and Public Relations Department. Continue for the between at the program Good Morning Salone. The program Good Morning Salone Day continues. It's 14 at the time from a studio clock, and we continue with issues in the program. As we tell on today, we look at the Parliamentary Welfare Act 2022, we now documents within our public now. And people they raise concern about the allowances, salaries, and conditions of service with members of Parliament want for improve for themselves. Well, we don't talk to the representative from Parliament based on waiting the office of the clerk pull yesterday. Parliament said they disassociate themselves from this document because in order to cheat the well of Parliament, but information we get to them, we don't gazette we don't know if we get forgotten the well of Parliament. Sheku, we na the spokesperson at the directorate of the public relations directorate na Parliament don't tell we waiting at them position. But we also get Thomas Dixon at the studio, we a journalist and social commentator. So we continue to look at the issues them. Although we don't get response from Parliament, we go for candy back. But we continue to look at the thing the way they inside these documents. For people we not see them yet, you don't begin already for talk about the thing the way they do. We don't make mention of the medical allowance where they say they want of $25,000, where they say equivalent in loans every year. But also, let we look at the other thing then we did. They say fuel allowance shall be 45 liters weekly, payable on a quarterly basis. Members of Parliament then say they want for be paid a sitting fee and a sum of 250,000 per sitting, payable on a monthly basis. And also, other thing they need within the talk about, like if they want for travel on medical or business official purpose and for use and business class, then other thing we quickly got me attention gets for do with vehicle where they say allowance. For buy for vehicle allowance or buy for the members of Parliament. You know, a social commentator, then kind of thing where the members of Parliament they ask for themselves. At this point, if he able for go Parliament, because now he go Parliament, then agree for him. If the Parliament sign and president end up sign and then it go into effect. If then kind of thing happen, na Salone based on the current economic situation, what thing it go mean for the economy if all NTR they able for pass on a Parliament?
The representative of Parliament don't tell we say formally they're not presenting documents to it. Not presenting the document formally to Parliament, no means say Parliament no aware. And with all what he don't say in justification, they tell we say, the people of Sierra Leone say, Parliament fully aware of this particular bill. And I see they make comparison with Sierra Leone and Kenya MP, forgetting that the GDP of Sierra Leone is $4 billion US dollar, and that of Kenya is 98.84 billion US dollar. They make comparison with Ghana, which is about 72 billion US dollar GDP. So I think them comparison, they know all water. And it shows a parliament insensitive to the plight of the people. They tell you about 6 parliamentarians will die. Parliament no say about hundreds of picking and they die in a cottage of preventable causes. Parliament no say about hundreds of women where they go born. In fact, recent reports, Sierra Leone is one of the riskiest places for a woman get belly and born picking. Do you know how many teachers are dying of preventable causes? Simple. Malaria, just malaria. They are dying every day. Do you know how many young people, every now and then, we 98.12 in obituaries, young people are dying of preventable causes. So I think so, then they know what. And now coming to your question. Parliament, they asked for $25,000 for by vehicle.
For each member of
For
Parliament.
each member of Parliament. With that money, they forgive them the first quarter of the first year of each term. Already, as I talk, parliamentarians them don't unlawfully take $15,000 for vehicle. This Parliament, $15,000. I had that from BBC yesterday. $15,000 for vehicle. Each member of Parliament.
So they want to add them up to 25,000.
Why Sierra Leoneans? This law not going to.
Yeah.
They don't take $15,000 for vehicle. Why Sierra Leoneans are suffering with transportation, basic transportation. Go to Calabar Town, go to Wellington, go to Waterloo, and see house. Go to Lumley, and see in Freetown and see how Sierra Leoneans are suffering.
The problem, Naya? Is it that timely for let them bring this, or now they fail where they fail for put the interest of them people and we elect them?
One, first of all, Sierra Leone gets that money for paying member of Parliament them. That kind of thing they wouldn't be talk about. I don't give with GDP just now. Secondly, it's not timely. At this point in time, as I said, it shows Parliament insensitive to the plight of their constituents. These are representatives of the people. They are very, very insensitive to their plight. And then thing they are when they talk about, I think say it's very, very astronomical. Maybe if if they do answer small, you remember when government they negotiate with workers, then can say, okay, let's begin. If workers then they ask for 100% increment, and they say, no, let's begin small, they go at 25%. But this is huge. Apart from that, Parliament they ask Sierra Leoneans for give them 45 liters weekly. Where then for they pay them that liter day on quarterly basis, meaning every 3 months. They forget this 45 liters weekly. They also they ask them forgive them facilitation. And this thing that we then put so not so for just the city members of Parliament. They say anything where they do so where they increase them wages, then condition of service for be reflected. So members of Parliament they would not retire or would they not pull in a Parliament. This, if Parliament pass this law, they only concerned about the members of Parliament that were in a Parliament now. And you look at it that the thing so fishy. We just get less than a year for this crop of members of Parliament for go. And we all know saying a saloon about 70% of MP the way during the election and they come back. So you just see how fishy this thing is.
But somebody go say Thomas Dixon for the labor on this thing now since Parliament done this as you say themselves for it has died down also.
Our things say we get forgive we self credit as citizens.
You think say even this proposal where Parliament don't turn down, you go come around again?
Turn down it. This has been gazetted. Gazette is a process for let bill go na Parliament. Get for gazette, get for go to force reading. They don't turn down it. They just tell you say no they before they eat. That does not mean no they go before Parliament too. The first process don't go through by gazetting it. And other citizens and see and snap and put on a social media, the you and cry. Parliament for assure Sierra Leoneans and say this bill, even wait, if the private member will go this bill, cow this bill in Parliament, we no go look at her. There are many bills. Like there are many public bills.
It's not like now that's the probably they expect a parliament for them. So we are not even going to discuss this if it can I
But you look at the press release and from what my brother now they say, they don't come with justification. Why make for increase? Then they justify at one hand. They are the other hand and they say that they dissociate. If you they support. If you know they support, not support. But you're not going to support, then they say no, why they dissociate. So for me, I think some of them things they are. The parliament will get, they are very, very insane. Whether it's one member, I listen to the BBC reports, and the BBC correspondent say he spoke to a lot of members of parliament and all across the political divide. When me say, and according to him, most of the members of parliament across the political divide want for this bill come.
Dixie, somebody
want increment of one day conditions there.
Then the bet go tell you say political appointees they get more. Why not MPs?
That is the reason why if it don't happen. If Parliament, that private member motion, go with the wages, equitable wages and salaries compensation bill, where they cut across public sector workers. But if you take a selfish bill like this, not considering the economic situation of the country now, the GDP, you not consider them, you begin to talk all length in a day because you want to like the Kenyan member of Parliament, not knowing the GDP in Kenya, or because you want to like the Ghana member of Parliament. No. I think even government not get the resources for it. We just see about 22% where government they spend per education. How other sectors are starving. Then I say you go take now, you begin for give members of parliament the business class. Members of parliament and go just they travel. Business class and go just they travel like that.
All right.
So for me, I think let we be serious in this country for once and let we look at the things that we matter. Health, education, electricity, water. These are the things that will matter for the people of this country now. Not to forgo begin giving recess allowance to member of parliament.
Continue for the with me inside the program, Kmows Dixon, social commentator and journalist. They talk on the Parliament Welfare Act 2022, where Parliament don't disassociate themselves from, according to the release yesterday, but concern still they say NC don't pass the first stage, possible say you go appear in a parliament and you go pass into law.
Can we continue with the issue we get for do with the Parliamentary Welfare Act 2022, where they in a public domain now? Well, as we continue to raise the concern and issues them, where we don't look at so far in the program this morning, we got a call from one member of Parliament, we in a Honorable Lahai Mara. It represents constituency 42 na Falaba district. It say it gets some things that we want to make clear because in a sitting MP. Well, let me welcome her and know it's in concern where it gets. Good morning, welcome to the program, Honorable Mara.
Good morning, 98.1, and good morning, listeners.
Okay, as I don't tell listeners them, we get a call from you where you say you want to make mention of certain things then for sake of the discussion where we get in the studio this morning. Firstly, as member of parliament, you get anything or any business for do with this particular act where we look at the program this morning, you handed it?
Yeah, the bill in question, now members of parliament them do them. Therefore, now a private member bill where we don't go through the process, we don't gazette them. And now a bill we born out of the fact that first we call for salary harmonization. We don't listen to Africanists. We don't see the huge salary gaps. We have MDAs or certain individuals where they take 80 million loans per month in this country. We get people where they take 70 million loans, 60 million loans. The ATC boss, for instance, the FS, for instance, and the 40 million loans is so many, is so huge. At first, as members of parliament, we call on for salary harmonization. We then set up the salary harmonization commission. We see enough forthcoming because people the way they part of the process, they deny the bill for reaching a parliament. If that bill don't happen, we have been expect civil society and journalists for call for harmonization at this country. The salary gap is so huge. Then you get members of parliament. We are the real politician. Now we the contest elections. Kmows Dixon, they talk about the huge turnout, 70 to 80% of members of parliament, they're not able to meet out the obligation with their constituents. I believe say this are one of the things we will need to think about, because for me get a solid representation, a representation way for being a parliament if we don't get some years of standing. Mind you, parliament get to do with lawmakers. But each and every year, when we get huge turnout of 70 to 80%, is disgraceful to Sierra Leone. So we for not actually waiting at the root cause for this huge turnout. It's not that all members of parliament are the same, no. We get some people that were really good like anyone. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have accountants who are amongst us. It is also important for people to know, say, MPs are not getting vehicle allowance. MPs are not getting fuel. Who that in at the civil service, even an ordinary accountant, they get fuel. MPs don't they get what you call leave allowance. I believe Sierra Leoneans for don't be surprised like, oh, our MPs are not getting all of these things. Now the time for more put them together so that we will get them the rightful way. We intentional for develop what we call the parliamentary bill. And mind we get what you call the local government act. We get other acts like the Chieftaincy Act. Which are the rules of the parliamentarian and constituency. So all of this born out of this. So we get to develop a bill, but we have to start somewhere. Now we don't begin to get them right.
So Honorable,
the rule of the parliamentarian and constituency. All of these come together and make we develop such a bill.
Okay, Honorable Lahai. So yes. From where these documents come public, one thing where the public be concerned about are for identify other than are the people and we put this private member motion bill together. So you they confirm now say na una the member of parliament do because yesterday we see the clerk of parliament said that they disassociate themselves from them because it not reach them yet. But you they confirm say na una the members of parliament including you, Honorable Lahai, na una do
We get a group of parliamentarians who called the Parliamentary Welfare Committee. Now we see them, we go through that building. For nearly a month now, we don't get people them together. We do some consultation all over, and our members of parliament now then do away belong to that Parliamentary Welfare Committee. Okay.
All right, so Honorable Lahai, so as we continue for look at this, you make mention of the harmonization bill where you say no look they come into existence. We made the members of parliament and decide for come out with unayon concern them and unayon forget unayon bill aside for let una go get unayon allowances them and conditions of service improved. And you also make comparison with some ministers, directorates and other people where you say they get better salaries than the members of parliament. Taking this into consideration, now that comparison they make una put this together or una just want for let this happen because una are members of parliament and because instead of comparison, why the members of parliament not talk for let them improve on the constituents them living conditions, but una want for let una they compare una your salary with other people.
It's not about comparison. It's about members of parliament having a condition of service. It is also a disgrace for no say parliaments don't get condition of service, especially for members of parliament. Always then they get now them basic salary. So it's now more crystal to build out something where when you go to parliament, this is what your conditions are, and this is what you will put on the table before you begin your function. When I go to parliament newly in 2012, they pay me on the table something around 5 million euros. It was like, wow, imagine on the table. What about the other conditions? What about what you will get for meat? If it is disgrace for more not say, we will not get vehicle, or not get parliament vehicle. It's also a disgrace for more not say, parliamentarians do not get offices. Always how we sit in an open space in a parliament what they call the lounge. We don't get privacy. It's also for more not say, parliamentarians do not get staff we assigned to them. And all this for me, you get an effective and a very good parliamentarian, you need staff. We know they talk about Liberia, but I want for state here also, with economy without of Liberia, do not be apart, do not be far. Liberia, each parliamentarian gets 4 to 5 staff we assigned to them. They all get offices. Then they pay a parliamentarian in Liberia above $70,000. We are not asking for that. The ministers, the vehicles that the ministers and they use is over $70,000 what they assign to them. The ministers or directors that they use is over $70,000. We are not asking for all of that. We are saying the economy no good. We are say they are rich constituents and they go through a lot. But at least must set a pace where the members of parliament go start from. This now come out with it.
So Honorable Mara, quickly,
yes.
Honorable Mara. So in all of this, the public don't show concern and they argue say the members of parliament not supposed to ask for this at this time. But parliament they justify say they not receive the documents yet from the leadership in parliament, and we know from information we don't get so now don't get them. So una the members of parliament then get plan really for take these documents go parliament.
You know, we don't just talk about salary harmonization. We don't just talk about the salary gap. But the public no go ever discuss them things and because there are people, as soon as you get something above others, then soon at that kind of level, they're free for talk about you. But when it has to do with members of parliament, the public always gets energy. Now they tell me they see civil society we unrecognized. We don't know they ever talk about the killings. We don't know they talk about the hardship. We don't know they talk about the unnecessary increase in fuel prices. Now they tell me they see them, they want to be recognized because it has to do with members of parliament. We are the politicians who are vulnerable to the public. People can just say as soon as you face a member of parliament, you don't get recognition. So this vulnerability, we're vulnerable, we don't get access to security, we don't get access to anything. And we are the real politicians. We are voted for in our various constituencies, just like the president, just like any other.
So, Honorable, I ask again, on the credits go parliament and pass them to law?
And now with intention, if they then do the necessary thing, and definitely we are going to stand by it, and we are going to make sure say we get a parliamentary bill where go tailor certain activities where they can. We will also look at beyond the role of the parliamentarian in constituency. I will be able to make sure the project within the Apple in constituency, it will be able to get access to them. In functional in constituency, just like the council is the political authority, just like the parliament is the constituents of the land. Who is the parliamentarian? We want to develop all that bills at the end of the day so that we're able to get a solid parliamentary bill.
All right, many thanks to you. That's the voice of Honorable Lahai Mara, Member of Parliament for Constituency 42 na Falaba District. If they make and clear and say then the members of Parliament now them put that document together and in a reform it said that the intention for Kerango Parliament and make sure say then stand by them and pass them to law. Well, the program Good Morning Salon, they continue.
We get the spokesperson from the Public Relations Directorate na Parliament, we na Sheku Laminturi. And earlier will be the struggle for no would them put this bill together, but from Honorable Lahai Mara in submission, it clear now say Committee on Welfare that them puts this proposed bill together for presenting a parliament so that they will improve on the welfare of the parliamentarians. Them now it's clear. Now we don't know whether them put them together. What's next from parliament on this proposed bill?
Well, the clerk don't make them very clear. Now the press release yesterday that this particular leaked document not officially or formally presented to parliament, and that's not the position of the house. But whatever I get for do with bill, and you get for go through the process. At least people then get for put them together, don't then get for gazette and don't from there then go lobby parliament. So that's not just the process. It could be accepted or rejected. So that not.
But it don't make it clear say then ready for standby. And we mean say then go for pass them to law. So as soon as the spokesman as soon as the spokesman for parliament, as soon as the spokesman for parliament, from the thing that we Honorable Mara don't talk, going through the process and plan for go through all the process, can go to parliament, and then the members of parliament where at the end of the day they agree on waiting they want, and according to them, they don't agree say they want this. You they talk from information and public for Seka Parliament. One of the people within that department, as now you know the spokesman here this morning. Anything get for change from waiting Honorable Mara don't talk?
No, I not go either agree or disagree. Okay, I get for maintain the balance.
But then
because this issue
concern then legitimate and timely.
The process just start, not conclusive, and we go for allow the process, but quickly.
Now then they push the process. So let me know on that. Now then they push the process.
Not true say.
And according to them, they're ready for push and say go. No. So then concern then legitimate and timely.
Why not? The concerns of MPs, I don't they come now at 98.1 repeatedly. I don't they talk about challenges with members of parliament.
So this means it's going to be done.
It's not conclusive. It's a process. It's not conclusive. Now, for example, the member of parliament make it very clear that MPs, no, they get fuel allowance. But ministers, civil servants, they get that opportunity. They from grade 7 upwards. Then they clear. But members of parliament no get them. Of course, ministers and other directors get access to government vehicles. The member of parliament no get them. So therefore play the devil's advocate. Let's speak truth to the issues. Just like we when they come up with issues of the teachers, we're equally legitimate. The member of parliament make reference to the salary harmonization. We were in committee room 1. We invited civil society. We were there.
Despite the concerns that already public don't raise.
Now also
why
it make
not timely.
Mr.
From all
Dixon.
waiting you don't say and waiting Honorable Maratel win at the phone. The public for confirm now say this is going to it go parliament and then go for grief for him.
Well, it not go parliament it.
But you don't talk and say it go there because now they.
Well, we wait and see.
And,
so where will you that bridge go cross? And quickly, members of parliament not to go recess 3 times per year, as Mr. Dixon claimed.
Maybe 2 or 3 times.
No, it's not. You are not certain. Yeah, so you know go talk on that. Members of parliament they go recess once in a year. Yeah, and so if any staff or any government officer, it get leave allowance, whether big or small, you get leave allowance. But the member of parliament are entitled to that. The bottom line is they don't have conditions of service. Our members, even the UK parliament and other parliaments across, the world, not get conditions of service. But quickly,
continue, before you make that point, we just want to let the listeners and also we cross all over the 9 o'clock where we can end the program because we're not been start the program quick, so we get 15 minutes bonus for continue the discussion.
Yeah, and thank you very much. Quickly, he made reference to GDP of Ghana and Kenya. That one is subject to verification and it is also debatable. I don't know. I see Google done it come up with something. It is not sacrosanct.
So no, we know.
So
no,
we're not going to use that. For this platform for bash at parliament.
No, we not focus on.
No. But we are talking to the people.
Now, we look at the committee. No, look at the committee. No, look at the committee where puts this proposed bill together.
Now the figure we get the challenge.
No, look at the committee. Now a very recognized committee within Parliament for make the clerk come out and say they're not aware as leadership of Parliament. How connected the activities of Parliament today with the different committees them where they create within Parliament.
Look, let's look at for the purposes of this discussion. Let's look at awareness. Awareness separate from formal presentation in the parliament. Yes, maybe you go hear people there, they eavesdrop. Maybe you go eavesdrop, you hear people they discuss. But that not necessarily means say it don't formally be presented, to the Parliament of the Republic of Sierra Leone. I don't say the process that it has to be gazetted and then therefore serve the office of the clerk, then the leader of government business, when now the chairman for the business committee, then therefore discuss her, and that business committee they constitute the leadership of Parliament before then go put another paper for taken to Parliament for consideration. We not reach that stage there, but then a part of the legislative process.
All right, Sheikh Olaminture, continue for the between the program director of Parliamentary and Public Relations Department. Let me come over to the other studio guests. We're now Thomas Dixon, journalist and social commentator. You listen to Honorable Mara, and also you don't listen to it in the Sheikh Olaminture from the Public Relations Department and Parliament. Don't they say what are you fear if this come into existence? Because according to Honorable Mara, then the members of Parliament them ready for push and go through the procedure then, and the intention for turn them to law. What are you fear?
First of all, I wonder why the discrepancy in terms of explanation to the public. The clerk of parliament, including the PR of parliament, they give you different explanation, and then Honorable Mara just spill the beans. And for me, I want to give credit to him for where he say what exactly happened. That it's a process by the Parliamentary Welfare Committee. Most of the members there, they are aware of it, and they don't go through the first process and so on and so forth. The fact remains is Sierra Leone will face serious macroeconomic imbalance, and we get historically the fiscal balance in this country has been in deficit, and for the past 5 years it don't average 6%. So I think say members of parliament not just for look at some of them things and then therefore look at the increment of salary for them in the context of the economy, the present economic condition. But from which we don't get from Honorable Mara, they say civil society, them, the champion salary harmonization, and journalists and all that. I want for correct and say journalists we don't write, we don't talk, and they beat people. We continue for write and talk and about some of these things. And Honorable Maradi Komotna Falaba, one of the deprived districts in this country, as a private member, I think there are lots of issues for regional parliament concerning the deprivation in Falaba. There are lots and lots of issues. And my brother tried for justify out UK parliament, but I think he correct himself. See, they not get condition of service. They have. So for me,
UK parliament, they have a condition of service.
For me, I think you can't compare Sierra Leone. If just they make comparison, compare Hapu.
No, but if civil servant get conditions of service,
wait.
Are they not public officers?
Dixon, with all this, the person we can represent Parliament could tell you, see, then self need then conditional form ensure say the able move. You not think say that arguments they valid?
There was a time in this country where Parliament tell me they get constituency development fund. We not see what parliamentarians they do that money at the constituency. There was a time when it changed from constituency development to facilitation. How many members of parliament, even in Fritongia, where they organize town hall meetings for people with the facilitation, because the facilitation fund and for facilitate your movement to your constituency. So coming to the waiting and they present the unrealistic demands where they make another building, I think then that thing is very, very absurd for a country. And I believe as members of parliament, they are continuing to say they are being insensitive to the issues in this country, particularly the economic situation of Sierra Leone.
Two things at play. What in you issue? Is it that they're not, the MPs are not deserving in terms of the work where some they do not in constituency? Or is it that due to the economic situation, they're not for come with that at the moment? Which one of these two now you issue?
First, I think Sierra Leone not gets the economic muscle for food. Some of them things in there. And one. Two, I think it's not timely. And I also believe then they make comparison to them and civil servants and other sectors. But what is the basic criteria for
ministers as well?
I'm coming. What is the basic criteria for going to parliament? I don't talk and I say the motivation, not for big money. The motivation at parliament, for go represent we well. Right. When we see parliament represent we well, I believe Sierra Leoneans go come up and say it's time for the parliamentarian the salary go up.
So Dixon, at this time,
and we see when it comes to developmental bills. Last week we talk about statistics and data. We suicide parliament then fairly. But when it comes to their own personal issues, suicide they all rally around themselves. When it comes to issues of development, that is why a senior colleague once said, fix the parliament and solve the problem in Sierra Leone.
So at this time, Dixon, look at the other side of the coin. The members of parliament here we talk about now part of the three arms of government. Yeah. And then self not forgo to a status compared to the other arms of government where they receive better salaries and allowances. Then self not for regional status the way they part of the three arms of government.
As I don't answer this question, you see, first of all, we don't get the economic muscle power now.
But it happen in other sectors then.
If it happen in other sectors, then these are things where you get for look at the political culture of Sierra Leone first. Sierra Leone, we don't pay civil servant them. We don't give fuel to civil servant them. If during colonial time, post-colonial time, and to now.
So what do they advise?
So for them members of parliament, then just begin grab up and say, would they compare ourselves to the anti-corruption commissioner or to a Supreme Court judge?
So what do they advise?
Tell me now, if the Supreme Court judge in the UK and a member of parliament they get the same salary, no.
It don't make
in US, no.
The salary harmonization.
These are professional wing of government.
Dixon,
yes.
It don't make it clear say the salary harmonization where them they above say go make the holding at the same level, not seem for they come into existence. What do you advise at this stage? For let them push, for let them they come into existence, or let them just continue and advocate for
when I
themselves.
start, I say if them don't do a private member for the equitable or the harmonization of wages and salary, who for don't support them? Because you go see even in government, you go see one government sector with the same qualification, they get higher salary than the other one. And I think these are the motive of the salary harmonization act. Well, I think them for pioneer. If government not the counter, then can do them. We don't see as you don't say the abortion bill, several private member motion bill where they don't come up with over the years. Then can come up with that, and we the people then go support them. Say okay, if una say una increase una salary, una they talk about the harmonization of salary across board, and not just for una. For me, I believe at this point in time, Sierra Leone get the kind of economy for food them demands we members of parliament and talk about.
Alright, many thanks, Thomas Dixon, journalist and social commentator, for you can participate in this discussion at the program this morning. We'll wrap up the program with Sheku Lamin Toure from Parliament, as you know the Parliamentary and Public Relations Department. Waiting at the assurance we they left with listeners and say Parliament will take into consideration the concerns and where the public don't raise, where they see these documents if it reach na Parliament based on waiting and go for acts upon. Waiting at the assurance we they left with and say on I go consider then concern them.
Is a listening Parliament as far as the 5th Parliament of the Second Republic of Sierra Leone concerned. Whenever citizens then raise concerns, the Parliament listen, and the Parliament believe in wider stakeholder consultations. Of course, we see happen with the repeal of the Public Order Act. We see happen with the abolition of the Death Penalty Act. This is a listening and consultative Parliament, and the Parliament not unaware of what they happen. But I tell you, say the Parliament now a mirror of the country. If we have a better Parliament with conditions of service, it will cascade to the general citizenry. Thank you very much.
Many thanks. We can at the studio this morning. Sheku Lamin Toure, Director of Parliamentary and Public Relations Department. Now, Parliament, we also been get Thomas Dixon, journalist and a social commentator. We look at the Parliamentary Welfare Act 2022, where they don't gazette but not reach now Parliament yet. Today, the democracy will continue to follow this issue. Now, at this edition of the program, Good Morning Salon Golefuna. Many thanks to the production team. Michael Sambola and Alex Lawrence Kuma produced the program.
Maybe not forget say Alex Lawrence come also engineer the program.
That's the time for twist pastor. That's forget the credit. And many thanks to Alex Lawrence Kuma for giving technical support this morning na the program. So till we meet again, listen throughout the day. We get other programs that they come to you. Mabel Kabade say goodbye.
And Musa Kamade say have a wonderful day, and one for wish the national football team Leon Star all the best. Then in the game against Nigeria today, 4:00 in the Nations Cup campaign. That's not the first game. All the best to the national football team Leon Stars.